Hey everyone, this is Matt Bennett, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about aperture and shutter speed and how these values can have a particular effect on your photo. So basically, real quick, aperture is how much the diaphragm on the camera is open, and it's usually in a range from 2.8, the f number 2.8 to f number 22. Now, the larger the aperture, the more light that it's going to allow into the sensor. And depending on how much light is allowed into the sensor will give you a larger, smaller depth of field. So real quick, and I hope this doesn't confuse you, but the smaller the f number is a larger aperture. So if at f2.8, f number, f2.8, the aperture will actually be very large. It will actually be at its largest. Now at f number 22, f22, the aperture will be very, very small, letting in a small amount of light. So I know they're kind of opposite, the smaller number, larger the aperture, but really the only thing you really have to know is when the f number is really low, it's letting in a very large amount of light. So this is particular in lower light situations in indoor or in shady areas. You're going to want to have that you can have that f number be really small and letting in more light. And the smaller the f number, it's going to have a smaller depth of field. So in this picture, for instance, the aperture, I believe, was in the f2.8 to f3.5 range. And so you can see that the foreground is in focus while the background is very blurry. And you can also have it to where the background is in focus and the foreground is very blurry, very out of focus. And this is going to be the effect of a low f number. And so a high f number is going to have the opposite effect. It's actually going to have a very large depth of field. So that means the background and the foreground will be in focus. So this, for instance, is kind of like in the middle. That's a low f number, and this is a higher f number. So you can see that the background over here, these trees are in focus, and so is are these leaves as well. And these are all in focus. So really, this is a high f number, and so a high f number, and it's going to be a small aperture. So it's going to let in a little bit of light, but it's going to allow for a higher depth of field. Now, something to keep in mind when changing your aperture numbers is you're going to have to change your shutter speed to compensate for the smaller or larger apertures. And this is just to ensure you have correct exposure. So you're going to have to look at your exposure meter, and when you change your aperture, you're going to have to adjust the shutter speed to make the proper exposure. So typically for a low f number being it's going to let in a large amount of light, you're going to need a much faster shutter speed. And so the shutter speed is really, it's how long how much time it's allowing light to come in and hit the sensor. So the shorter amount of time you let light in, the less light is allowed to come in. So a lower f number, when a lot of light is coming in, you're going to want to be really fast shutter speed. You're only want a little bit of time for light to come in. And just the opposite, a high f number, it's going to allow just a little bit of light in, and so you're going to need that shutter speed to be a lot longer. It can be up to a few seconds, depending on the lighting conditions and how high your f number is. So keep in mind that when adjusting for aperture, you're going to also have to adjust for shutter speed to make the correct exposure. And you can mess around with this and get some really cool effects, and really the object you want to be in focus, your focal point of that picture, you can make it really stand out by messing with the aperture. And so that is it for this video on aperture and shutter speed. And until next time, I'll talk to you then.